God says, what you're about to skip could change everything. Stop. I know you almost kept scrolling. And I know exactly why. Because something in you, something deep, something tired, something that has been carrying weight for a very long time, recognized this moment. And that part of you said, wait. God said to tell you something today. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Today. And if you leave before this message is finished, you will not hear what has already been prepared for you. My child. I see you. I see the version of you that smiles in public. And I see the version of you that sits alone at night, wondering if any of it matters. I see both. I love both. And I have a message for both. Stay with me. Let me describe you. Not who you pretend to be. The real you. You wake up some mornings and the weight hits you before your feet even touch the floor. You check your phone, hoping someone reached out. Sometimes they did. Most times you just scroll through other people's lives, wondering when yours will begin. You pray. But lately the prayers feel like they disappear into a ceiling. You believe in God, you do. But somewhere between the life you imagined and the life you're living, something broke. And you don't tell anyone that. You don't tell people that some nights you lie there asking, did I make the wrong choices? Is it too late for me? Does God even hear me? I know you. I made you. And I need you to understand something before we go any further. Everything you just felt while I was describing you, that feeling right now, that is not shame. That is recognition. That is the feeling of being truly seen, perhaps for the first time in a long time. And I need you to hold on to that feeling, because what I am about to tell you is built on top of it. Don't go anywhere. There was a woman who had been sick for 12 years. 12 years of doctors. 12 years of money spent. 12 years of being told nothing could be done. And in that crowd, that massive, pushing, noisy crowd, she did one thing. She reached. She didn't shout. She didn't perform. She didn't have a perfect prayer prepared. She just reached. And power left the source and entered her body, because the reach was real. You're watching this video right now, that is your reach. And power is about to move. Close your eyes for just a moment. Not long. Just a moment. Breathe. Whatever is on your mind right now, the bill, the relationship, the decision, the fear, the silence from someone you love, just set it down for 60 seconds. Not forever. Just 60 seconds. Because I want you to receive something, and you cannot receive with a clenched fist. Do you know what God said about you before you were born? Before your parents named you? Before the first mistake you ever made? Before the first person ever hurt you? Before the first night you cried yourself to sleep? Before any of it, God looked at what He was about to create and said, this one is worth it. This one I will fight for. This one, even when they forget me, I will not forget them. You were not an accident. You were not a mistake. You were not born to simply suffer and then disappear. You were born because heaven needed a specific kind of light on this earth, and only your particular story, your particular wounds, your particular voice could produce it. That is not poetry. That is your identity. I want to ask you something. When was the last time someone told you they were proud of you? When was the last time you felt genuinely at peace? God says, I am proud of you. Not for your achievements. Not for your perfection. For the fact that you are still here. Still trying. Still reaching. That takes more courage than the world will ever give you credit for. There is a story of a shepherd who had 100 sheep. And one went missing. Now logically you leave one to protect 99. That is math. That is strategy. But God does not operate in your math. He left the 99. Stop. I know you almost kept scrolling. And I know exactly why. Because something in you, something deep, something tired, something that has been carrying weight for a very long time, recognized this moment. And that part of you said, wait. Not because this thumbnail was perfect. Not because the title was clever. But because somewhere beneath all the noise of your day, beneath all the scrolling and the busyness and the pretending that everything is fine, something in your spirit recognized that this moment was not an accident. And that part of you, that quiet, exhausted, still believing part of you, said wait. God said to tell you something today. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when your life looks better or your faith feels stronger. Today. Exactly as you are. Exactly where you are sitting right now. And if you leave before this message is finished, you will not hear what has already been prepared specifically for you in this moment. My child, I see you. I see the version of you that smiles in public and holds it together for everyone around you. And I see the version of you that sits alone at night, wondering if any of it matters, wondering if the prayers are reaching anywhere, wondering if the dreams you once had are still possible or if you have simply waited too long. I see both versions. I love both versions. And I have a message that was written for both. So stay with me. Please stay with me. Because what I am about to say to you was not prepared for the masses. It was prepared for you, the specific person watching this video at this specific moment in your life. Let me describe you, and I want you to listen carefully, because I am not going to describe the version of you that you show the world. I am going to describe the real you. The private you. The you that very few people have ever truly seen. You wake up some mornings and the weight hits you before your feet even touch the floor. Before the first cup of coffee. Before the first notification on your phone. Before the day has even truly begun, the heaviness is already there, sitting on your chest like something you cannot name but cannot escape. You check your phone hoping someone reached out, hoping someone thought of you, hoping there is some small sign that you matter to someone today. Sometimes there is. Most times you just find yourself scrolling through other people's highlight reels, watching their celebrations and their promotions and their happy moments, and somewhere in the back of your mind a quiet voice whispers, when is it my turn? When does my life begin to look like something I actually recognize? You pray. But lately the prayers feel different. They feel like they leave your lips and disappear into the air above you, like words bouncing off a ceiling that will not open. You believe in God, you genuinely do, your faith is real, it is not performance, it is not habit, it is something that lives deep in you and refuses to fully die even in the hardest seasons. But somewhere between the life you imagined when you were younger and the life you are actually living right now, something cracked. Something shifted. And there are questions you carry that you do not say out loud because saying them out loud feels dangerous. Questions like, did I make the wrong choices? Is it too late for me to become who I was meant to be? Does God actually hear me, or am I talking to silence? Am I being punished for something I cannot even identify? Will things ever truly change, or is this just the way my story goes? I know you carry those questions. I know you carry them alone most of the time. And I need you to hear this clearly before we go any further. Everything you just felt while I was describing you, that recognition, that almost uncomfortable feeling of being seen accurately, that is not shame. That is not exposure. That is something sacred happening. That is the feeling of being truly, completely, lovingly seen, perhaps for the first time in longer than you can remember. And that feeling is not an accident. God put it there. He allowed it to surface right now because he has something to say to the person underneath all of those questions, underneath all of that weight, underneath all of that quiet, persistent, beautiful, stubborn hope that refuses to die inside of you. Do not go anywhere. Do not close this. Do not let the distraction of whatever else is waiting for you today pull you away from this moment. What is coming next in this message could be the thing you look back on years from now and say, that was the day something changed. There was a woman whose story is recorded in Scripture, and her story has survived thousands of years because it is not just her story, it is the story of everyone who has ever been at the end of their rope and made one final reach. She had been sick for 12 years. 12 years is not a short season of difficulty. 12 years is not a brief valley between mountain peaks. 12 years is a decade and more of waking up every single morning in pain, of spending every resource she had trying to find an answer, of going to every doctor and following every prescription and trying every remedy, and being told over and over again that nothing could be done. 12 years of watching her savings disappear. 12 years of watching people around her move forward with their lives while she remained trapped in the same suffering. 12 years of wondering if this was simply her portion in life. And then one day there was a crowd, and Jesus was moving through it, and she made a decision that changed everything. She did not shout, she did not prepare a speech. She did not wait until she had the perfect words or the perfect faith or the perfect moment. She simply pushed through the crowd and she reached. One reach. One moment of desperate, exhausted, still believing faith. And power left the source and entered her body and everything changed. You're watching this video right now. You're staying in this moment right now, that is your reach. You may feel like you have nothing left to offer, like your faith is threadbare, like you are reaching in the dark not even sure anything is there. Reach anyway. Because power is already moving in your direction. Close your eyes for just a moment. I mean this genuinely, not as a theatrical instruction, but as an invitation to receive something. Close your eyes and breathe. Just breathe. Whatever is pressing on your mind right now, the financial pressure, the relationship that is uncertain, the health situation that frightens you, the decision you cannot seem to make, the silence from someone whose voice you desperately want to hear, just for 60 seconds, set it all down. Not forever. Just 60 seconds. Because you cannot receive what God wants to pour into you right now if your hands are clenched so tightly around your problems that there is no room left to hold a gift. Breathe in. Breathe out. And in this moment, just let yourself be a person who is loved before you are a person who is struggling. Do you know what God said about you before you were born? Not before your first good decision. Not before the season when your faith was strongest. Before you existed at all. Before your parents chose your name. Before the first breath ever entered your lungs. Before the first mistake you would ever make. Before the first person who would hurt you ever had the chance, before any chapter of your story had been written, God looked at what he was designing and he said, this one is worth it. This one I will pursue. This one I will fight for through every season of their life, through every failure, through every wandering, through every doubt, through every night when they cannot feel me, I will not stop fighting for them. You were not an accident of biology or timing or circumstance. And here is what I need you to hear about that moment. When he found it, he did not lecture it. He did not stand over it with disappointment and make it explain itself. He did not say, look at the trouble you caused, look at how far you wandered, do you understand what I had to go through to find you? He put it on his shoulders. Not on a leash. Not walking behind him in shame. On his shoulders. Carried. Protected. Brought home not as a failure but as something found and precious. You are that sheep in this season. And whether you feel it or not, he is already carrying you. You have simply been so focused on trying to find your own way back that you have not yet felt the hands that are already underneath you. Now I need to say something that requires your full attention, and I need you to stay with me even if what I say initially makes you uncomfortable, because there is a second half to it that will change the way the first half lands. Your pain was not random. The specific thing you went through, not a general difficulty, but that specific experience, the one that your mind returns to even when you try to redirect it, the one that changed you in ways you are still discovering, the one that you would never have chosen and would choose to undo if you could, that experience was allowed. I did not say it was caused by God. I did not say God designed it as punishment or that suffering is something God enjoys inflicting on people he loves. I said it was allowed. And I know that is a hard sentence. I know that for some of you that sentence creates more questions than it answers. Stay with me. Because here is the second half. It was allowed because God already knew, before it happened, what it would produce in you. Not just despite what it cost you, but through what it cost you. You cannot manufacture gold without the process of fire. The fire does not destroy the gold, it removes everything that is not gold. You cannot have a sunrise without the complete darkness that has to exist before it. You cannot hold a testimony in your hands that did not first pass through a test. And your test, the specific one you have been carrying, has been producing things in you that cannot be produced through comfort or ease or a life where everything works out smoothly. It has been producing a depth of compassion that only comes from having personally suffered. A quality of wisdom that only comes from having genuinely failed and gotten back up. A category of unshakable faith that only comes from having doubted deeply and chosen to believe anyway. A kind of strength that the comfortable will never access because it is only forged in the place where human strength runs completely out. God did not waste a single moment of your pain. Not one moment. Not one tear. Not one sleepless night. Not one prayer that felt like it disappeared. Every single bit of it has been working something into you that your destiny absolutely requires. Jesus did not come to this earth as a comfortable, distant deity who observed human suffering from a safe position. He walked into the middle of it. He touched the untouchable. He spoke to the ones everyone else walked past. He entered homes where death had already arrived and he refused to accept the final word that death had spoken. Lazarus had been in the tomb for 4 days when Jesus arrived. Not hours. For days, the practical-minded people around him said, "Lord, by now there is an odor, meaning it is over, meaning this situation has moved past the point of any reasonable hope." And Mary and Martha, the sisters who loved both Jesus and their brother deeply, said words that echo across every generation of believers who have ever prayed and felt like the answer came too late. They said, "Lord, if you had been here, our brother would not have died. If you had been here." That phrase is the prayer of every person who watched something die while they were asking God to save it. The marriage that ended while you were on your knees asking for restoration. The job you lost while you were believing for breakthrough. The relationship that broke while you were trusting God to hold it together. The diagnosis that came while you were standing on healing scriptures. If you had been here, Lord, where were you? Why didn't you come before it was too late? And in that moment, standing outside the tomb of someone he loved, knowing exactly what he was about to do, holding the power of resurrection in his very person, Jesus wept. He did not stand over the grief of the people around him with detached divine composure. He did not say, "Why are you crying? Do you not trust me?" He did not skip past the pain to get to the miracle. He entered the grief first. He wept. Because the people he loved were weeping. He allowed their pain to become his pain before he allowed his power to become their miracle. And that same Jesus, that same God who wept at the tomb before he spoke to it, is present with you right now in this moment. He is not standing at a distance watching your struggle with the detachment of someone who already knows the ending. He is weeping with you. He is entering your grief with you. And he is preparing to speak to the things in your life that everyone, including perhaps yourself, has declared too far gone, too long dead, too much time past for anything to change now. So here is what God is specifically saying to you today. Not to believers in general. To you. The first thing he wants you to hear is this: stop apologizing for still being broken. Stop treating your incompleteness as disqualification. Stop acting as though God can only use the polished, the healed, the fully put-together version of you, and that somehow the current broken version of you has to stay hidden in the waiting room until you are worthy of being used. You are not broken in a way that disqualifies you from your calling. You are broken in the precise way that bread must be broken before it is able to feed the hungry. You are broken in the way that a seed has to crack open and seem destroyed underground before anything living can emerge from it. The breaking is not the end of your story. The breaking is the beginning of the version of your story that is going to feed other people who are exactly where you are right now. The second thing God wants you to hear is that the waiting is not punishment. I understand how it feels like silence. I understand how seasons of prolonged waiting begin to feel like abandonment, like God answered everyone else's prayers and simply forgot the address for yours. But there is a difference that matters enormously between delay and denial. Delay means the answer is coming and the timing is being perfected. Denial means the answer is not coming. God specializes in the former and almost never operates in what looks like the latter. A seed that is planted in the frozen ground of winter is not dead. It is not failing. It is not being neglected by the farmer. It is simply waiting for the conditions that will allow it to become what it was always designed to be. And the season of your life is turning right now. The very fact that you found this video today, that something in you felt the pull to stop and listen, that you have stayed this long in this message, that is not coincidence and it is not accident. That is the hand of God beginning to turn the season. The third thing, and this is the one I most need you to hold on to, what God placed inside you is not expired. I am going to say that again because I need it to land somewhere deep. What God placed inside you is not expired. The dream that has been waiting so long that you feel embarrassed to still admit you carry it, it is not expired. The calling that everyone around you seems to have stopped believing in, the one you defended for years. And then slowly stopped talking about because the silence from others became too heavy to keep speaking against, that calling is not expired. The love you are still believing to experience, the healing you are still standing in faith for, the restoration of the thing that was broken, none of it has an expiration date. God does not put expiration dates on his promises the way human beings put expiration dates on their patience. People expire your promises. God never does. Let me tell you about Joseph, because his story is one that God recorded in Scripture specifically for the person who is in a long, dark, confusing season that does not seem to be moving toward anything good. Joseph was 17 years old when his brothers, his own family, threw him into a pit and then sold him into slavery. He was taken to a foreign country where he knew no one and had no rights and had done nothing to deserve any of it. He served faithfully in the house of a man named Potiphar and then was falsely accused by that man's wife and thrown into prison for something he did not do. In prison he helped a fellow prisoner, interpreted a dream for him, and asked only one thing in return: please remember me when you get out. The man forgot him completely. And Joseph sat in that prison for 2 more years after that. From the age of 17 to the age of 30, every single chapter of Joseph's life looked like failure, abandonment, betrayal, and unanswered prayer. 13 years. Every door that opened led to a worse room. Every person who could have helped left or turned against him. Every prayer seemed to evaporate without an answer. And then, in a single day, God moved. Not gradually, not slowly over another decade of incremental improvement. In a single day, a prisoner walked out of a cell and became the second most powerful person in an entire nation. In a single day, the person that every circumstance had declared finished became the person God used to save the lives of millions. 13 years of preparation. 1 day of promotion. And Joseph could not have known, in year 7 or year 10 or year 12, whether tomorrow was his 1 day or whether there were still years remaining. You do not know which day you are on. You do not know if today is the equivalent of year 12 of 13. You do not know if the promotion day is 1 decision away or 1 sunrise away. But God knows. And God says to you today with complete certainty, do not stop 1 day before the miracle. Do not put down what you are carrying 1 step before the destination. Keep going. Now I need to tell you something hard. Something that the comfortable version of this message would skip over. Because it would be easier, and the video would probably feel better, if I only gave you the encouragement and left out the challenge. But God did not ask me to only make you feel good today. He asked me to tell you the truth, because the truth is what actually changes things, and a comfortable lie dressed up in spiritual language is one of the most dangerous things a person can consume. So here it is. Some of the people watching this video right now are going to close it when it finishes, feel moved for a few minutes, maybe share it with someone else, and then return to exactly the life they were living before they pressed play. Not because God did not speak. He spoke. Not because the message was not true. It was true. But because they will not do the one thing that transforms a message from an experience into a transformation. And that one thing is obedience to what they already know. That I want to ask you directly, and I want you to answer honestly, not to me, but to yourself and to God. What is the one thing, not a list, not a spiritual improvement program, the one specific thing that God has been asking you to do, that you have been postponing? You already know what it is. It surfaced in your mind while I was asking the question. Maybe it is a conversation you have been avoiding. Because having it would require a vulnerability or a courage that feels too costly right now. Maybe it is a habit, something you return to in the dark hours that gives you temporary relief but is slowly costing you more than you are admitting. Maybe it is forgiveness, and I am not talking about the forgiveness that requires you to pretend what happened was acceptable or that the person who hurt you deserves a pass on what they did. I am talking about the forgiveness that cuts the rope connecting your future to their offense, the forgiveness that is actually for your freedom, not for their comfort. Maybe it is a step toward the thing God placed in your heart to do, the step that keeps presenting itself and that you keep deciding is not the right time yet. Maybe it is simply this, beginning to actually spend time with God in the mornings instead of just intending to. Whatever appeared in your mind right now, that is not random. God placed it at the front of your thoughts in this moment because He is asking you, today, not next week, today, to take that step. The children of Israel wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. And when you understand the geography of what that means, it changes the weight of the story entirely. The distance between where they started and where they were trying to go was an 11-day journey on foot. 11 days. They circled the same ground for 40 years, covering an 11-day distance because they kept choosing the known fear over the unknown step of faith. Every time they came to the edge of what was comfortable and familiar, they turned back to what they already knew, even though what they already knew was a wilderness. The wilderness became more familiar than the promised land that they had never seen, and familiar things always feel safer than uncertain good things, even when the familiar is actually worse. God is asking you today which path you are choosing. The 40-year circle around the mountain that you know every inch of by now, or the 11-day walk toward the thing He has been preparing for you. He is not asking you to be fearless. He is asking you to be obedient in the presence of fear. Those are very different things. I need to tell you one more thing before we get to the prayer, and I need you to hear it carefully because it is the thing that the enemy of your life does not want you to understand about how he actually operates. Most people assume that the primary weapon used against human lives is tragedy, or failure, or suffering. And those things are real and they do cause damage. But they are not the most effective weapon. The most effective weapon against a life that has genuine God-given purpose and potential is not destruction. It is distraction. Because a person who is destroyed and suffering often runs toward God. Pain creates hunger, and hunger drives people back to the source. But a person who is simply distracted never realizes they are drifting. They stay occupied. They stay entertained. They stay comfortable enough that the urgency never rises to the level that prompts them to change. They keep meaning to pray more, to pursue the calling more, to invest in the relationships that matter most, to take the step of faith, and they keep finding reasons why today is not quite the right day. And slowly, over months and years, they drift so far from who they were made to be that they forget they were ever called to something more. Which category describes your life right now? Are you a person in a season of suffering who, because of that suffering, is actually closer to God than you have been in years? Or are you a person who is comfortable and busy and entertained and slowly, quietly, without even noticing it happening, drifting further from your destiny with each passing distracted day? God is asking you to answer that honestly. Not to condemn you for whichever answer is true. But because He cannot lead you out of a place you will not admit you are in. And the person God sees when he looks at you is not defined by that thing. For the person whose body is in pain, who wakes up every morning to a physical battle that exhausts you before the day even begins, God is the healer. Healing is not a theological concept reserved for past centuries. Healing is the nature of God, and it is moving in your direction right now. For the person who has lost someone they love deeply and is still learning how to exist in a world that has a shape they do not yet recognize, your person is at peace. And the God of all comfort, the one who wept at a grave before he spoke to it, is available to you, not as a concept, but as a presence that can sit with you in the exact shape of your grief. For the person who almost did not watch this video, who almost kept scrolling, who almost let the distraction win today, this message was made for you. Not for someone else who needed it more. For you. God says to you, I have not forgotten you. I have not reassigned your promise to someone more deserving or more patient or more faithful. I have not moved on from the plans I made for you before you were born. Every good thing I placed in your life, every relationship, every purpose, every dimension of joy and peace and wholeness and impact that I designed for you, I am still fighting for all of it. I have not given up on your marriage or your children or your calling or your health or your peace or your future. I have not withdrawn from the field. And I am asking you today to stand with me. Not in your strength, because I am not asking for your strength. In mine. Not according to your timeline, because I am not constrained by your timeline. According to mine. Not driven by fear of what might happen. Driven by the faith that comes from knowing, from having observed across the entire span of human history, that I have never once, not a single time, failed a person who trusted me completely. Not once. That record does not break with you. What you almost skipped today was this moment. This specific encounter. This message that was prepared for you before you even knew this video existed. You did not accidentally find it. You did not stumble here by algorithm alone. You were brought here because there is something God needed to say to you today, and He arranged the path to make sure you heard it. And now you carry it. It will not leave you the way a feeling leaves. It will work its way into your thinking and your deciding and your praying and your early mornings and your late nights and your moments of doubt and your moments of temptation to quit. And in those moments it will return to you like a quiet voice reminding you of what is true. He sees me. He has not forgotten me. My pain was not wasted. My promise has not expired. I do not stop one day before the miracle. I do not circle the mountain for 40 years when the destination is 11 days away. I reach even when I am not sure anything is there. Because power has always moved toward the one who reaches. Before this video ends, I want to ask you to do one thing. Not subscribe, not like the video, though both of those things help this message reach people who need it. One thing. Think of the person who came to your mind at some point during this message. The one whose face appeared while I was describing someone who is tired, or forgotten, or carrying something alone, or circling the same mountain, or close to giving up. You already know who it is. Send them this video today, not eventually. Today. Because you do not know what today looks like in their life. You do not know if this is the day they needed someone to remember them. You do not know if the message they need is sitting in your hands right now. Be the person who delivered what they needed. God will take care of everything else. If this channel is something you want to return to, subscribe and turn on the notifications. Because every single video here is built with one purpose, to speak to the real person behind the screen, not your performance, not your reputation, not the version of you that has everything together, the actual you, in the actual season you are actually in. We believe God is still speaking. We believe He speaks through ordinary voices and ordinary moments and ordinary videos to reach extraordinary people in the exact moment they most need to be reached. And we believe you are one of those people. Our next video carries a message specifically for the person who has been deeply betrayed by someone they trusted, someone they believed in, someone they gave access to the most vulnerable parts of their life, and that trust was broken. If that is any part of your story, the next video will feel as though it was written about your life specifically. I will see you there. God bless you. You are seen. You are loved. You have not been forgotten. The plans are still in motion. The promise has not expired. And now, go and live like every single one of those things is true. Because it is.